So, good
We are
afternoon,
now live, sir. Please go ahead.
good afternoon, namaskar, and welcome again, once again, to our next edition of webinars in the series Illness to Wellness. We today with us have a very esteemed galaxy of panelists, specialists who are going to enlighten us about, I would say, the most burning topic of the day, that is Omicron. That is COVID morphed into, I would say, the monster of COVID morphed into maybe a much worse form, and it's again spreading its wings in our country all over the world, and we are again facing the challenge of Omicron. We are again facing the challenge of COVID in the way of Omicron. It's a new challenge to India, and this is what we are going to discuss. We've bravely fought with COVID and different variants of COVID since past 2 years. Many of us have put in a lot of efforts, and unfortunately there have been a lot of sad incidents. There have been a lot of sufferings because of COVID, material sufferings of life and emotional. All this we are going to discuss, how to be better, how to face better this new variant of COVID, the Omicron. So to start today's session, I'd invite Sri Anil Rajput ji sir to start today's webinar with his introductory words. He is the chairman of the CSR committee of SOCHM. SOCHM is more than 100 years old organization which is bringing out so many changes in the society, helping people go forward. And in context of today's webinar, I would say that they have started this initiative of moving people from illness to wellness, making their lives better. Earlier, these used to be physical initiatives. We used to do a lot of tests and educate people, sitting with them and giving them recommendations. But now, due to COVID, this has moved on to a virtual platform. So here we are with this very interesting discussion, Omicron, a new challenge in India. Over to you, sir. Shri Anil Rajput.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Kesri. Dr. Tarun Sahni, General Physician, Internal Medicine, Indraprasth Apollo Hospital. Dr. Manoj K. Goel, Director and Head, Pulmonology, Critical Care and Sleep Medicine, Fortis Memorial Research Institute, Gurugram. Dr. Rajesh Kesri, Founder and Director, Total Care Control, Delhi NCR. Good afternoon and a warm welcome to yet another interesting webinar on an extremely topical issue, Omicron, a new challenge in India, organized by SHM under its Illness to Wellness program. The COVID-19 crisis is the biggest global challenge the world is facing in modern times. Nearly 2 years into the COVID-19 pandemic, the world is now racing to contain Omicron, a dangerous new variant of the virus, poised to cause a huge wave of infections around the world. Omicron has been called a variant of concern by the World Health Organization based on the evidence that it has several mutations that may have an impact on how it behaves. The WHO has warned that it should not be dismissed as mild. While there is substantial uncertainty regarding Omicron, and a lot of research is underway to evaluate its transmissibility, severity, reinfection risk, etc., some experts have indicated that even if Omicron does cause less severe disease, the sheer number of cases could once again overwhelm unprepared healthcare system. Worldwide, the Omicron coronavirus variant has been reported in 89 countries, and the number of cases are doubling in 1.5 to 3 days in areas with community transmission And the reality is that Omicron is probably in most countries, even if it hasn't been detected as yet. In India, the first two cases of heavily mutated version of the corona variant were found in Karnataka earlier this month, and since then, India has continuously recording cases of Omicron. As of now, India has 236 confirmed cases of this variant. While the COVID cases reported in our country has been below 10,000 per day in the past 20 days, scientists from National COVID-19 Supermodel Committee are of the view that the daily COVID-19 caseload in India is expected to increase once the Omicron starts displacing Delta as the dominant variant, and that a third wave in India is imminent and could arrive early next year. However, many public health experts are also of the view that despite the presence of Omicron in India, its transmission is slow and there is no large outbreak witnessed anywhere yet. This is because India has both high seroprevalence, which gives a lot of natural immunity, as well as high vaccine penetration. With 88% of the population having first dose of the vaccine administered and 58% of the second dose administered, India's vaccination drive is the highest rate in the world. And that the daily rate of doses is 4.8 times the rate of US and 12.5 times the rate of United Kingdom. Despite this, as cases in other parts of the world surge, we must monitor this variant closely and be prepared for any eventuality. We are still learning how much Omicron eludes immunity conferred by infection or vaccination, with several countries advocating booster shots to increase vaccine efficacy against Omicron. There has been a growing chorus for booster shots in India as well. In my opinion, the booster dose will enhance protection from this infection, which in turn will slow down the transmission and the infection burden. Moreover, as the cases increase, it will be important to prevent the disease, at least in the immunocompromised and high-risk groups. However, the Indian government is yet to announce the policy in this regard and will only come to a decision after carrying out studies and considering scientific evidence. COVID-19 is a test not only for our healthcare systems and mechanisms for responding to infectious disease, but also of our ability to work together as community of nation in the face of common challenge. New variants like Omicron are a reminder that COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. It is therefore essential that people get vaccinated and continue to follow existing advice on preventing the spread of virus, including physical distancing, wearing masks, regular hand washing, keeping indoor areas well ventilated, so on. The government agencies need to increase surveillance, intensify public health measures, and share information on database platforms globally in our collective endeavor to fight this pandemic. We are at a critical juncture in addressing this healthcare crisis and related economic shocks. It is time to be even more alert and our efforts to contain the spread of transmission more vigorously. Amid growing fear, uncertainties, and never ending speculation, the heavily muted Omicron virus is enigma and most certainly a variant of concern. Today, we are joined by eminent personalities who have a deep and advanced understanding on the subject at hand. We look forward to hearing their expert views on the various aspects of this variant and recommended actions for mitigating this challenge. I welcome them once again and look forward to an enriching discussion. I wish this webinar a great success. I finish here and thank you very much. Jai Hind. Over to you, Dr. Kestri.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the elaborate introduction and the context setting. So we finally are there. We finally are facing Omicron, another variant of COVID. Life has been quite complicated, and there have been so many issues to this COVID other than just the disease, just the manifestation, just the symptoms. I'd like to come to you, sir, Dr. Arun Sani. You've seen a lot of patients with COVID. You've seen the whole spectrum, whole gamut of COVID patients. You've been seeing them in OPDs, consulting them. You've been seeing them in ICUs, and you've been seeing them recovering. And in the post-COVID era, when the OPDs have opened up, people have started coming to you for other problems. What has been your overall experience of these past 2 years that you consider to be very detrimental, not just as a physician, not just as a specialist, but what and all has happened during these past 2 years, which probably we should avoid? So would you please enlighten all the different aspects that people have to face?
Thank you, Rajesh. I think what we've learned from the first wave to the second wave to what we are either in the third wave or it's an impending third wave. I think the first wave, at the end of the first wave, by December, end of 2020, we thought that we had captured the disease. We had, India had done a great job. We had a lockdown. And that particular time, the virus was more relevant to people who had comorbidities, who were in an elderly age group. The vaccine had still not really come forward. So we went through the first wave and we thought that battled it, we don't have a high mortality. And we went on to the second wave. By the time February and when the second wave started, by which time a lot of us had been vaccinated, we thought we were sitting in a good place. Volumes were not high. Vaccination rates were good. People were getting vaccinated. So we thought we were sitting on a good platform, which is when we realized the viciousness of the virus. It mutated completely and it gave us a Delta or a Delta plus variant. Now the Delta plus variant was so lethal and it now affected a different age group. We were looking at people in their late 30s, early 40s, early 50s who were getting infected by the vaccine. These were the most productive people in society, the middle rung of society. And some of them in peak performance, peak physical health, peak physical shape, following all kinds of precautionary measures. And yet they had the disease and we lost a lot of them. I'm sure anybody who's on the platform, at least somebody very close, either neighbor or mother or somebody we've lost during that second wave, which just went on to reveal that the virus cannot be trusted. We cannot think that we've been vaccinated, we've got host immunity, the community has been immunized. And which is where now when we are seeing a third sort of a mutant called the Omicron, or what you're seeing in the UK, what they're calling the Delta Micron as a combination, we are now really worried maybe this particular strain is not as lethal, but also the immunity is there in the community. But what we are worried is with the way it is replicating, the R factor, we had reached a time when the R factor was less than 1, 0.5, 0.6. We are now reaching R factors of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 12. The more the virus replicates, the higher is the chance of a next mutant coming out. And nobody can predict how lethal will the next mutant be. So we are all, holding our breaths. There is what we call a cautious optimism, saying that we are protected, we have host immunity, we have, community has been infected. But we are all really, really worried that the next mutant may be even more lethal than the Delta or the Delta plus which is there. And I think that is the reason society needs to recognize the fact that the precautions are not governed by the government. The government can facilitate vaccination, it can facilitate lockdowns, it can facilitate all that. But we as a community, as a society, we have to understand the risks and take our precautions. I mean, there was a recent travel I did, and I remember from the time I got off at the airport till the time I reached my destination and stepped out into the car, I had a double mask on my face because travel is the most common form of transmission. And especially international travel coming into India or Indians traveling into international society. So it is up to the society to exercise the caution and let us just pray that we do not have a much stronger variant coming out of this Omicron and that the next 2-3 months, first 3 months of 2022 go away peacefully. It is then we can heave a sigh of relief. Till then, I think all precautions have to be done. It's mandatory. It's a responsibility of society, not of the government, to really, really take that forward. We've learned our lessons from the first and the second wave. And if we do not exercise the caution, we will have no one to blame. We can't blame the government, we can't blame society, we can't blame anybody, but you need to blame your own self as an individual if you did not take that risk. So, like I said, cautious optimism, we are optimistic, we are on the right track. But I think caution is a word which cannot be forgotten. And we need to be careful of that. But let's hope things get better.
Thank you, sir. In fact, that was very interesting. And one of, I would say, the most important points that I picked up from your words was that since the virus is replicating very fast, we never know when a much worse mutant might develop and it may become the predominant strain. So we have to be cautious and ever cautious as you've concluded. Thank you, sir. Dr. Manoj, I'd like to have your views. I would request you rather to explain to our audience what is this new thing, Omicron? What's the difference between the COVIDs that we've had till yet and this Delta, Delta Plus, and Omicron?
So thank you, sir, Dr. Rajesh. See, this is a virus of concern at the moment. WHO has already declared it. And we had suffered humiliations by Delta variant, which was the last variant, but currently the dominant variant all over the world. And it has mutated over that. And so we have to compare it with Delta variant, actually, not with Alpha, Beta, or Gamma variant that we had. Because the most devastating variant till date has been Delta variant. Now this new variant has come. So if we compare this variant from Delta, there is a significant mutation. There are around 50 amino proteins mutation in this, and out of which around 25 to 26 mutations have spike protein. And we know how spike protein is important. It helps in binding the virus to the cells and it facilitates its entry into the cells and then multiplication and replication. So there's a huge mutation in the spike protein. So that makes it more transmissible and more infectious. And the fear is the virus is more transmissible, more infectious. The fear is that it will infect a large number of people. There's a fear that it can breach the immunity developed with previous infection or vaccination that we have received so far. And this is being actually seen in UK also. Those who already got vaccinated, those who got infected with COVID previously are also getting infected with this virus and showing symptoms. And there is a possibility that the existing medical treatment that we have, which is now becoming a little more scientific and robust, and there, it's more of a guided treatment rather than experimental treatment that we had in the initial phase. So some of those medical strategies, especially the monoclonal antibodies, might not be effective, which help in preventing the progression of disease to the severe disease to the tune of 70 to 80%. And the other aspect is that, once it starts infecting the vulnerable population, at this point we are thinking that this is could be a very mild variant and maybe a blessing in disguise and may cause widespread immunity. So first, the concept of natural immunity by infectivity of the virus is not acceptable or ethical terminology. So we have to be careful that once it starts affecting those who are not immunized, those who have got vulnerable groups like elderly people, diabetics, hypertensive, cancer patients, immunosuppressive therapy, there it can cause devastating illness. And there, once it start multiplying, as Dr. Sir was saying before, that once the virus multiplies more, there is a possibility a more virulent strain can come into the picture, which could be more devastating. So there is a big threat of this virus in terms of its infectivity, its transmissibility, causing possibly more severe disease, especially in vulnerable age group, then immune escape, and some of the drugs not being effective on this. And these are very early days. When we talk of we follow the timeline of the COVID infection, generally the death rate and the mortality rate, the hospital rate is known in the second and third weeks. So we are very early stage. So we actually know in coming couple of weeks how deadly it is, what is the enormity in terms of hospitalization and causing the death rate. So it's very early at this point to say, even to say that it is a mild virus. So we have to be very, very cautious, very, very cautious.
Thank you. So caution as it comes out is one of the most important words while dealing with especially this virus. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Manoj. Dr. Sani, sir, once again, back to you. The ball's in your court again. And I would request your opinion that, as you've said yourself, and Dr. Manoj was telling that maybe this virus is not as lethal, or it's not, the infection is not that severe, but it is more virulent, and as you said, it is spreading very fast. So, does that spreading fast somehow make up for its less virulence and making it anyway severe and anyway worrisome? What is your opinion, sir?
I think the point which I mentioned about the R factor, though this particular strain is not very virulent, it's not causing death. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, I have 2 or 3 or 4 COVID patients. Only one I admitted, and that was a 75-year-old gentleman who had diabetes, and the family were happy to keep him in a hospital where he could be observed. Otherwise, all cases, and I've interacted with all my friends and colleagues, we've not had a very virulent or a very, a treacherous kind of infection, rushing people to the ICUs or needing tons of oxygen. But like I said, our extreme anxiety is on the replicating factor. If it replicates so fast, the R factor is so high, it is inevitable that we will get a variant. Now, will that variant which will come in be more potent? Will it have a totally different behavior like the Delta had? A different age group, different localizing location where the disease would act. So I think our anxiety is more on the replicating factor and that a new mutant emerging than the current anxiety from the present strain. The present strain doesn't seem to be so strong. It is infecting people. And if we don't stop them from infecting people, the replicating factor will continue to get higher. And we will inevitably get a variant. And we don't know how strong that variant would be because it would have gone through so many people and so many humans and built up its own defenses to tackle. So I think that is where we stand. The Omicron itself is not potent but highly infectious. When this will translate into a much stronger virulent strain is what we are preventing everybody from making it happen. So the message continues: stay safe, stay segregated, use your mask, because we know it is transmitted through the respiratory droplets from one individual to another. So I think that really is the way to be able to control any complications emerging from the third wave.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Manoj, continuing on to you. From the information that I have, I think till yet we've had only 249. I was just watching the news cases of confirmed Omicron, and there have been no letalities, and all the cases till yet have been quite mild, and those who were admitted have been discharged from Delhi. I think that's the case. 36 out of 33. are faring well. But nevertheless, Omicron is here. And I'm quite sure that you are very carefully monitoring and watching how people who've been infected with Omicron in UK and other countries, how they're responding to treatment and what and all they're suffering from. So first to you, that does the manifestation of Omicron infection somehow differ from what were in the first COVID and then the Delta or Delta plus variant? Because we saw quite some differences in the symptomatology and how people behave. So anything you would like to add on to this, sir?
See, to be honest, I haven't got a witnessing in my practice at this point in time, but I have got patients with COVID infection coming to me, and I have at least 8 patients in ICU at this point of time with COVID infection, and 3 of them are on ventilator. 3 or 4 likely to go on ventilators to prevent the disease not gone. So I don't know whether this is a Omicron strain or what strain. We are trying the genomic sequencing done in these patients, but we are not getting results out of it. So at this point of time, I cannot be very sure that whatever numbers we have in India, we are finding less severe disease or something. And second, one thing that we need to understand that every race has a different genetic constitution. How Indians are going to react to this Omicron was it comes very low. So we can't be complacent. One point if it is showing my behavior in UK doesn't mean it will be showing the behavior in India. So that is a very important message that we have to understand. We can't take this virus, like it has hit us hard many times. It has put us on back foot many times. So we have to be very careful. Now, coming to symptomatology wise, as I have told you, I am finding presenting cases with the same symptoms which I had in the Delta wave time. But as we understand from the UK experience, people have more of a respiratory tract symptoms. They've got scratch throat, throat pain, maybe body ache, sorting. Symptoms, some of them would be complaining of loose motions, but feeling of breathing difficult or drop in oxygenation is not that much there. But having said that, not severe illness oxygen, maybe 3 to 4 liters has been so better city is there.
We're not able to hear you, Dr. Manoj, maybe.
So we can't take it very right at the moment. Yeah.
I don't know. I think he was not quite clearly audible, but just in case for the benefit of audience, I would repeat that there has been a statement from the WHO that the symptoms of the current COVID infection that have been noted, this Omicron variant, are a bit different. Maybe they are a bit different from the previous Delta or Delta plus. And their predominant infection symptoms of, just as Dr. Manoj Goel was trying to say, of the upper respiratory tract infection. That means like sore throat, scratching of throat, throat irritation. And these have been quite prominently seen in the patients in whom the Omicron infection has been confirmed in UK. And there are some other symptoms also, which are myalgia, that is pain in muscles and pain in joints, which have been noted in these patients who have been identified to suffer from Omicron. Dr. Unsani, would you like to add something if maybe we've skipped on that?
The difference, what we are saying in the Omicron is that the Delta variant actually affected the lungs. So that's why everyone was getting a HRCT done. And we would look at the severity. This particular variant does not seem to be affecting the lung. It infects the respiratory passage. So you have, irritation in the throat, you have a cough, you have body ache, but you're not finding saturations dropping. Nobody has a saturation of, less than 90%. So we are not impacting the pulmonary parenchyma. This is still a respiratory borne virus, and the respiratory tract is involved, which is your oronasal cavity, your trachea, your, heart palate, etc., going down. But it does not have a predisposition for the pulmonary or the alveoli. And that is the reason the patients are still maintaining the oxygens. And the reason why we have not had them rush to hospital, because They're all monitoring. We're getting them to monitor their oxygen content. They're using saturation probes, but it does not affect the parenchyma. So I think that is one difference which is there. I think the other difference which is emerging, we're not sure whether it still is, that there seems to be some similarity between this particular variant and the HIV virus. And there may be some drugs which are working on HIV patients may find a use for helping control this variant. And I think that is the reason there is an, part of the anxiety, because we don't even know that the same drugs we used for Delta will actually work for Omicron. If tomorrow patients come into the ICU, they may not respond to the drugs which were, we've got so used to tocilizumab and remdesivir and steroids and, anticoagulants. So this variant may not respond to that because its behavior is completely different. And by the time we realize that, it may be, it'll cost us a lot of time and life and morbidity. So we need to keep a watch on what is being researched at different places, both in the private and in the public sector, because a lot of work is going on. And we need to then, deliver our strategy of prevention and of treatment based on what we learn over the next few months.
Thank you, sir. I think a lot of work is being done, a lot of R&D is being done, but we are just not being able to catch up with the nature because some new antibody and the cocktail of antibodies had come, which it seemed was quite effective, which was very effective against the Delta variant, but now it seems that it is not working. डॉक्टर मनोज सर, आप बोल रहे थे अभी, और जैसे डॉक्टर अंसानी ने भी बोला कि जो इलाज हम पिछले साल कर रहे थे, इस साल की शुरुआत में कर रहे थे कोविड के पेशेंट्स का, वो इलाज इट वाज मोर ऑफ अ गेस वर्क, इट वाज नॉट वेरी वेल वैलिडेटेड, साइंटिफिकली वैलिडेटेड. तो लेकिन अब जो वेरिएंट आए हैं, इसका इलाज हो सकता है डेफिनेटिव हो. सो इज देयर एनीथिंग लाइक दैट? हमें कुछ पता है क्या कि अब ये जो नया वायरस आया है, इसका हमें इलाज कैसे करना है?
सर, इस वायरस के लिए भी जो इलाज की स्ट्रेटजी अभी सेम ही है जो कि डेल्टा वेरिएंट के लिए है. वी हैव टू स्टेरिलाइज द सिवियरिटी ऑफ द पेशेंट दैट इज गॉट a mild disease and it is a severe disease, and depending upon the severity of the disease we have these patient support system. Suppose they need oxygen or higher support like ventilator or non-ventilator support, so those kind of support would be required. So one aspect is supportive care, which is the standard depending upon the disease manifestation, what organs involved, how much is the oxygen job, what is your respiratory status, what is your hemodynamic status. So that is the standard of care. As far as the specific treatment is concerned, जिसमें कि हमारा रेमडेसिविर था, टोसिलिजुमाब था, या कुछ और दवाइयाँ बेलिस्टिन वगैरह आई थी, वो अभी भी इसके खिलाफ यूज की जाएगी अगर ये पेशेंट आईसीयू के अंदर आएगा. उसमें उतना ज्यादा अभी डब्ल्यूएचओ को शायद कंसर्न नहीं है या सीडीसी को कंसर्न नहीं है. मेन कंसर्न है मोनोक्लोनल एंटीबॉडीज का, बिकॉज मोनोक्लोनल एंटीबॉडीज स्पाइक प्रोटीन्स को ही अटैक करती है. क्योंकि इसमें बहुत ज्यादा वेरिएशन है स्पाइक प्रोटीन, तो इट इज पॉसिबल कि जो मोनोक्लोनल एंटीबॉडीज हमारी अभी अवेलेबल हैं, विच इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वेपन. क्योंकि अभी जैसे डॉक्टर सानी कह रहे थे कि ट्रांसमिसिबिलिटी को रोकना, डिजीज सिवियरिटी को रोकना, ये हमारा मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है इन कोविड मैनेजमेंट. तो अगर ये मोनोक्लोनल एंटीबॉडीज इन वल्नरेबल ग्रुप में इफेक्टिव नहीं होंगी और वो उसको ओवरकम करके अगर सीवियर डिजीज में जाएगा और मोर ट्रांसमिसिबल बना रहेगा, तो हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है. और यही इस समय मेन कंसर्न है. वैसे स्टैंडर्ड जो मेडिकल ट्रीटमेंट है एज ऑफ नाउ वही इसके लिए अप्लाई होगा, बट ऑफ कोर्स वी लर्न जैसे जैसे बीमारी बढ़ेगी, जैसे हमारे पास केसेस आएंगे और हाउ दे रिस्पॉन्ड टू द एग्जिस्टिंग ट्रीटमेंट, विल know how they are being. And in the meantime, new drugs are coming up. Scientific developments are going on. The world is not sleeping over COVID. The researchers are working, the drug companies are working, and new drugs are coming up. So we may have multiple drugs coming up in the pipeline, which might be effective in case the previous drugs were not effective against this virus.
That is really very heartening, and your last sentence was very encouraging, that the scientific community is not sleeping over COVID virus. They're working day and night, and they're trying to find new solutions, because we are having a lot of questions in the chat box where people are asking about this. So अभी इसके बारे में चर्चा भी हुई, एंटीबॉडी, और हमें पता है कि डॉक्टर सानी said कि the vaccination that we take helps in making antibodies against this virus, or for that matter, any disease. And I was just reading a news, it was a statement from the government of India that over 60% of the adult eligible population has been vaccinated. So I think that is a great feat considering the huge population that our country has and the health infrastructure which we were having, and still being able to manage this huge numbers, I think highly laudable, and it is achievement for all of us. But Dr. Sani sir, we've been reading कि ये immunity, there have been studies, published studies, that it falls over to almost 20%. तो अब उनका क्या होगा जिनको दोनों डोज वैक्सीन की लग चुकी हैं, जैसे प्रॉब्ली हम और आप, जिनको एकदम शुरुआत में वैक्सीन लगी थी?
सी जो ये पूरा डिस्कशन हो रहा है कि हमें बूस्टर लेना चाहिए या नहीं लेना चाहिए, मतलब जो 2 डोज ले चुके हैं और कईयों को तो 2 डोज प्लस इन्फेक्शन हो चुकी है ना, अब इन लोगों में बूस्टर लेना है कि नहीं लेना। दूसरा जो क्वेश्चन आ रहा है कि ये जो बूस्टर हम लेंगे, ये जो नया वेरिएंट है ओमाइक्रॉन का, इसको प्रोटेक्ट करेगा भी या नहीं करेगा। तो आई थिंक अभी तक कोई भी यूनिफॉर्म कंसेंसस जो भी हमारी रेप्यूटेड इंटरनेशनल बॉडीज हैं, WHO है, हमारा ICMR है, इंडियन मेडिकल काउंसिल है, कहीं पे भी ये एक स्टेटमेंट हमें कहीं नहीं दिखाई दे रहा कि जहां हमें यकीनन सॉलिड प्रूफ हो कि हम 3rd डोज लेंगे तो हम ओमाइक्रॉन से बच जाएंगे, हम 3rd डोज लेंगे तो हमें कोविड फिर नहीं होगा। लोगों ने 3rd डोज भी लिया है, बूस्टर भी लिया है, उसके बावजूद भी उनको कोविड हुआ है। सो आई थिंक कोई रश नहीं है कि हम जाके बूस्टर लें। मैं बहुत लोगों को जानता हूं जो इंडिया से बाहर गए हुए हैं और उन्होंने वहां पे बूस्टर भी लिया है, और जिनको बूस्टर हुआ है उनको प्रॉब्लम भी हुई है। सो आई थिंक वेट करना चाहिए, बूस्टर के लिए हमें भागना नहीं चाहिए, बहुत जल्दी नहीं करनी चाहिए। अभी तक जो रिकमेंडेशन लॉजिकल लग रही है वो है कि अगर आप हेल्थ केयर वर्कर हैं और आपको एक्सपोजर के चांसेस हैं, हेल्थ केयर वर्कर मीन्स इवन जो नॉन हेल्थ केयर वर्कर जो कोविड या हॉस्पिटल के पेशेंट्स को एक्सपोज होते हैं, हमारे हेल्थ वर्कर्स हैं, हमारे सफाई वाले हैं, हमारे फूड एंड बेवरेज वाले हैं जो खाना लेके जाते हैं इन पेशेंट्स के पास, उन लोगों को शायद एक लॉजिक बनता है कि हम बूस्टर जरूर दें। बट पूरी कम्युनिटी को एक बूस्टर देना अभी तक कोई भी एविडेंस नहीं है कि हमें देना चाहिए। सो आई थिंक बूस्टर के लिए लेट्स वेट। The government has been very, very proactive. They've done an excellent job in dispersing the vaccine, sharing information, sharing international and national, research data in the public domain. The media, organizations like ASOCAM, CII have done a great job on bringing in awareness. So I think for the 3rd dose, let's wait. If you're a healthcare worker working closely with people who are likely to be COVID positive, there it still makes logic to take it, but otherwise I would recommend there's not enough reason to give a booster to every individual. Whether children should be vaccinated or not, that's a different question, and we can come to that later.
Thank you, sir. In fact, we've had very substantial discussions about the vaccination of children, and we've hosted one special program about vaccination in children, and we've had eminent pediatricians from all over country and some educationists. So I would like your opinion on this also. And it is recommended that the children should also be vaccinated, but then the pros and cons are that we have to weigh the availability of vaccine, and especially the booster doses for the susceptible population or at-risk population, just as you rightly mentioned, the doctors, healthcare workers, and the elderly or the immunocompromised patients. So I think that is also a very important aspect. So what is your opinion? Both of you, I'll just throw a quick question about the vaccination in children, because there is this emotional aspect of children being locked in their homes for 2 years. So how do you feel does the vaccination of children weigh in this context? I request a word from both of you.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So now the vaccine has made FD, CDC, right? So about vaccine there. Actually, very only infecting the population very. Some is not vaccinated, who are vaccinated ever before. And this very population is this population at risk of getting infected. Whether they would get a severe disease or not, but definitely at higher risk of getting infected because they're not vaccinated. So I think the time has come that we should seriously consider vaccinating these patients, especially when the schools are opening up. And we know that the other measures like social distancing, masking may not be appropriately followed by the children. They have to grow also. So that makes more sense, especially when we see the Omicron affect the younger generation. So I think that is a high time we should start thinking of getting children in the country.
डॉक्टर साहनी सर, आप क्या बोलते हैं?
नहीं, सिर्फ बच्चों में वैक्सीन तो बचपन से हम वैक्सीन दे ही रहे हैं, यू नो, और स्कूल खुलना है, इतने 2 साल से स्कूल बंद करा हुआ है, so we definitely need the children to be vaccinated, but we also need solid data on the safety and efficacy of the vaccine before we administer our children to it. The children are a very vulnerable population. Their exposure rates are high. The moment they step out of the house, you can't control them. Once they go into school, they'll be in playgrounds and in classrooms, and they'll be in science labs, and they'll be in arts labs, and they will be in drama clubs, which you'll not be able to restrict. So I would be very cautious about the vaccine is definitely needed. I'm not doubting that. But is our vaccine safe enough? Do we have enough data to say that they will not cause any side effects to the children? I'm sure all of us, Dr. Goyal, yourself, we are in practice, and we have a lot of people who've had a post-COVID vaccination syndrome. The long COVID is another syndrome, but people who've taken the second dose of vaccine have also had a lot of joint pains, fatigue, malaise, inability to concentrate. So I don't want that same exposure to happen to the children. If we need to wait a little bit, let's wait a little bit. And I think we just need to inculcate the right habits into these children to be safe and to prevent any infection, which means social distancing, masking. At least they're out of the house. There is some social interaction, which is important. Education cannot be done in a four-walled room. It has to be done interactively with a social interaction to take place. So we must open out the schools. We must ask them to be cautious. We need a vaccine which we can, all members of society, of the scientific community can say that this vaccine is safe. Please give it to it, like a BCG vaccine, your polio vaccine, your hepatitis B, etc. We are still far away from that much of confidence, but I think that is going to be important before we give it. We must give it, we must open schools, we must take precautions, and we must do all these things together at the same time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Manoj, sir, one simple question to you. Now, this COVID is bound to spread, is bound to affect more and more people. Now, suppose if someone gets, now these are, I would say, two questions. Maybe both of you can pitch in with your views. Now, what symptoms to watch for, first of all, before suspecting that you have COVID? And when should the person or the patient approach a doctor? First to you, Dr.
Right, sir. Actually, COVID is basically viral respiratory illness, and it would primarily, we can affect other organs, we know that, but primarily it's a respiratory viral illness. It enters the body through the respiratory system most of the time. So the people will start having those flu-like symptoms, right? And the flu-like symptom is that there could be cough, there could be breathing difficulty, there could be drop in oxygen saturation, there could be body ache, fever, which would be there, not feeling well. And these are the symptoms which can occur as a part of flu-like illness. So we have to be watchful for that. But many times these symptoms are not typically present, especially if somebody elderly who's got comorbid conditions, immunocompromised. They would feel very weak suddenly, or they would may have some altered behavior or altered sensorium. Suddenly they would have a complete loss of appetite, and they would not look good. So anytime if our vulnerable population, vulnerable elderly, Tauji or Nanaji, presents those sudden altered behavior, altered symptoms, lack of consciousness. These are again the symptoms we have to watch for. So coming to the medical advice, if these symptoms are there, especially if the vulnerable group is there, they must get in touch with the doctor immediately. But for somebody who is got high-grade fever running and severe cough or breathing difficulty or finding difficulty in walking, breath, that becomes a very important aspect of seeking a medical advice.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Sani, sir, would you like to add something?
I think
And
the
if I can request you to just elaborate a little bit on these, because during the last wave, we saw a lot of patients who did not have very high fever, but they had things like severe tachycardia, and how frequently to monitor the oxygen levels and about 6-minute walk test. So a little brief on how to do self-care at home and monitoring at home.
I think what's happened currently is, especially up in northern India, with the cold setting in and the pollution being very high, so the incidence of respiratory illnesses usually at this time of the year does increase. So we don't know what percentage of people have actually, and not all of them are testing for COVID. So there may be the numbers we are seeing may be incorrect, and there could be a larger volume of population which is actually COVID positive at this stage. So that is one backdrop which we need to understand, that symptoms which are common, it's upper respiratory influenza like symptoms are common at any given time of the year. At this time, it's very, very high. So we don't know whether we're dealing with COVID or we're not dealing with COVID and we're just dealing with influenza. So that is definitely one aspect of the entire management. The second part of the management is that those who do come forward to us and are being treated, do we test all of them for COVID or we just treat them? He's an asthmatic. Every year he used to get an asthmatic attack. So this year also he has an asthmatic attack. Thirdly, the virulence of the virus is low. So people are less cautious. They're not bothered. I've got a cough, cold, I'll take a cough syrup, I'll take a Crocin. He'll go to the local pharmacist, pick up 2 cough syrups and 1 Crocin and, maybe even 1 azithromycin dose. And he will go home and treat himself. So because the virus is not so strong, it's being underreported. People are self-medicating. And that is where we stand as we are today. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not sure. It's good because it'll become like any common virus which we have. It's a common cold virus you get every year. You get it this year also. The only thing is the virus has been so treacherous in the last 2 waves that we are worried where it's going to go. So we are recommending all precautions, vaccinations, COVID appropriate behaviors to be very, very, very strongly followed.
Thank you. Dr. Manoj, sir, would you elaborate a little bit now? अगर किसी को हो जाए कोविड घर पे मॉनिटर करना है तो क्या कैसे मॉनिटर करना है, और क्योंकि आजकल पल्स ऑक्सीमीटर, बीपी इंस्ट्रूमेंट, ये सब चीजें हर घर में होती हैं.
इसमें सर 2 चीजें हैं. एक इम्पोर्टेंट है कि जो कि वल्नरेबल ग्रुप है, जैसे गली हैं, ओबीज हैं, डायबिटिक हैं, कार्डियोवास्कुलर डिसऑर्डर्स हैं, इम्यूनो कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड हैं, कैंसर पेशेंट्स हैं, सप्रेसिव थेरेपी पे हैं, इन लोगों को तो 100% मेडिकल केयर को सीख करना चाहिए. इन लोगों को रिकमेंडेशन है कि दे शुड गो फॉर मोनोक्लोनल एंटीबॉडीज. मे बी इन आवर हॉस्पिटल या हमारी कम्युनिटी में भी ये है कि छोड़ देते हैं या सुबह एडमिट करके शाम को छोड़ देते हैं, राइट? बट दे शुड try and get monoclonal antibodies if possible, and therefore to be quite safe. Apart from the situation which is there, this is quite safe and one must go for it if there is a vulnerable population high risk of going developing a serious disease. Now coming to other population जिसमें कि mild symptoms हैं, उनमें क्या है कि उनको अपना टेम्परेचर 3-4 घंटे पे चेक करते रहना चाहिए. उनको वॉक टेस्ट करना चाहिए. वॉक टेस्ट 6 मिनट के लिए करें. अगर सैचुरेशन 3% से नीचे वॉक करने पे गिरता है तो उनको कॉशियस होना चाहिए. Any unusual chest pain which is persistent, which is chest compressive pain, and breathing difficulty, oxygen saturation anytime less than 95%, right? तो मेडिकल एडवाइस को सीख करना चाहिए और हो सकता है इनमें से कुछ लोगों को हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट करने की जरूरत पड़े. अगर आपको कोई कोमॉर्बिड कंडीशन है, फॉर एग्जांपल कार्डियक डिजीज है, तो लोगों को अगर कोई चेस्ट पेन इस तरह का होता है, हो सकता है सिम्टम्स ज्यादा होगा, जैसे कि आपको पता है कि कार्डिया महसूस हो रहा है, पैल्पिटेशन महसूस हो रहा है, चेस्ट पेन हो रहा है या उनका बीपी फ्लक्चुएट हो रहा है, तो उनको भी जरूर मेडिकल एडवाइस देनी चाहिए. बिकॉज ये 2 डेंजरस साइंस है, कार्डियोवास्कुलर इन्वॉल्वमेंट और रेस्पिरेटरी इन्वॉल्वमेंट. ये इसकी डेंजरस साइंस है जिसके लिए इमीडिएट मेडिकल केयर की इंपॉर्टेंस जरूरी है.
थैंक यू, आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा और बहुत अच्छी राय दी हमारे श्रोताओं को, क्योंकि क्योंकि इम्यून सिस्टम ओवर एक्टिवेटेड हो जाता है और इसकी वजह से हमारे हार्ट को और ब्लड वेसल्स को डैमेज होता है। तो बहुत सारे लोगों को कॉम्प्लिकेशन हार्ट के हुए हैं, हार्ट अटैक भी हुए हैं। सो वी हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी एंड केयरफुल अबाउट दीज एंड एंड मॉनिटर। जैसे डॉक्टर साहब ने बताया कि अगर आपको हार्ट की कोई प्रॉब्लम है, कोई तकलीफ है, तो तुरंत डॉक्टर के पास जाएं, हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट हो और अपना प्रॉपर इलाज कराएं। सो डॉक्टर तरुण साहनी सर, अब घूम फिर के ये समझ में आता है कि इस बीमारी का इलाज हमारे हाथ में ही है, हमारे शरीर के अंदर ही है, एंड इट इज आवर इम्यून सिस्टम विच इज एक्चुअली फाइटिंग। आई थिंक दैट इज द मोस्ट important defense and mechanism of fight that we have against any of the variants of the COVID virus. So a little bit about the immune system, how to make it strong. And one question from me personally: do we all have to need to take all those vitamins, zinc, vitamin D, vitamin B12, vitamin C? Because I think लोगों ने, देश की आधी पॉपुलेशन ने तो 6 महीने तक खाया ही होगा, उसका क्या फायदा है?
आई थिंक इम्यूनिटी के बारे में जो हमें पहले समझ थी और जो हमें आज समझ आ रही है, मैं उसमें कहूँगा हमें डेफिनेटली ये मालूम है कि हमारी इम्यूनिटी स्ट्रांग होनी चाहिए। और जो हमारे एल्डर्स और हमारे परदादा वगैरह बोलते थे, इम्यूनिटी के लिए गुड फूड, good sleep, regular exercise, these still form your 3 pillars of immunity. Your food has to be wholesome. All this fast food, fried food, those we have to restrict. There is this formula of 5. The formula of 5 means at least 3 vegetables and 2 fruits, or 2 vegetables and 3 fruits is something which should be built into everyone's day's activity. It clears your bowels, it gives you your nutrition, it gives you your things. So food is important. Regular rest is important, and exercise with a more focus on now respiratory exercises. Keeping your lung health strong is really going to help you. In terms of whether zinc will help, vitamin C will help, vitamin E will help, all the immunoboosted drugs which are there, we have no strong proof to believe they work or they don't work. In smaller quantities, I would recommend you can take it. But like Rajesh has said, पिछले 2 साल में मतलब इतनी जिंक और इतनी विटामिन सी पूरे देश में 10 सालों में नहीं खाई गई होगी। कोई नहीं बचा जिसने नहीं खाई होगी। च्यवनप्राश बिक गए। All kinds of immunoboost combinations have come out from pharmaceuticals and nutraceutical companies. We don't know where they work, but we know that there is a requirement to fulfill the nutritional requirement of the body, both the major nutrition, which is carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, but also the micronutrients, which is your sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, and all the other small things which are important for our immunity. So I think if you just eat good, wholesome food and get good sleep and exercise regularly, that is really going to be more important than all the other vitamins, all the other things. Take them, but don't trust them just because I'm taking 5 different immunoboosters, so I'm protected, I have a shield and COVID will not handle me. No, that's not true. Your precautions are still going to be important. Your body's basic immunity is still important. And I think those are the 2 key areas one should focus on.
I have a question in the chat box. Will it help boosting the immunity if someone plays lawn tennis for about 1 hour? This is to you, Roxani. You play a lot of games, so please.
Yeah, so see, immunity is important, and all kinds of exercises, all kinds of activities are good. Currently, at least in the north part of India, with so much of pollution and with so much of fog and there being a small particulate matter being available in the atmosphere, maybe it's better to go into a gym with an air purifier and exercise there rather than go out into the open. If you have to go into the open, don't go in the early hours of the day. Wait for the sun to come out. Wait for some of the pollutants to rise and clear the sky up. And all our smartphones now have give you a good indicator. So use that. Otherwise, definitely exercise, but maybe indoors with air purifiers, etc., would be more relevant now. than they were in the past.
Yes, thank you. I think those are some very important aspects, and exercise definitely is a great immune booster. It has been shown in studies that exercise increases the number of T cells, the WBCs. It has been shown to consistently improve these numbers. It means makes our immune system more effective. So exercise definitely is very important in our daily routine. Dr. Manoj, how about the breathing exercise, which are very popular in the form of pranayam? What is your opinion on that?
I'm being a respiratory physician. This is something which I advise to all my patients before COVID era also. So this is something which should become part of our living. सांस है तो आस है, ये हम लोग बचपन से सुनते चले आ रहे हैं. तो सांस का तो सबसे ज्यादा हमें ख्याल रखना है. लोग दिल का ख्याल ज्यादा रखते हैं, सांस को भूल जाते हैं. लंग्स हमारे उतने ही इंपॉर्टेंट जितना का दिल इंपॉर्टेंट है. और हमें सोचना चाहिए कि अगर लंगर साफ रहेंगे तो दिल भी साफ रहेगा. तो मैं तो थोड़ा सा पार्शल हूँ इस बात के बारे में, और शायद सही भी हूँ. ये जो प्राणायाम है, जो ब्रीथिंग एक्सरसाइज है, जो कि बहुत सिंपल है करना, जिसके लिए आपको कहीं जिम में नहीं जाना, जिसके लिए आपको बाहर नहीं जाना, जिसके लिए आपको पैसा नहीं खर्च करना, सिर्फ आपको बैठ करके वो प्राणायाम की सांस लेनी है, योगिक एक्सरसाइज करनी है, विच विल डू वंडर्स, जो कि आपकी डायफ्रामेटिक एक्टिविटी को भी बढ़ाएगा, आपके डाइजेशन इंप्रूव करेगा, एब्डोमिनल मसल्स को भी एक्टिवेट करेगा, और जैसे कि आपने बताया कि इम्यून सिस्टम को एक्टिवेट करेगा, हमारे नर्व्स, ब्रेन वेव सबको एक्टिवेट करता है. तो इसका तो कोई सब्स्टिट्यूट है नहीं. तो ये हमें जरूर करना चाहिए, और स्पेशली अगर किसी को कोविड इन्फेक्शन हुआ है तो उन लोगों को सांस की एक्सरसाइज रेगुलरली करते रहना चाहिए. उनको करते समय अगर खुद भी महसूस होगा उनकी एफिशिएंसी कम हो रही, तो पॉसिबली अर्ली वार्निंग साइंस है कि शायद लंग में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रही हो. और ऐसे पेशेंट, जबकि अभी हम लोग को बताया गया है कि उल्टा लेटना वो एक बहुत अच्छी एक आदत है, जिसमें कि लंग का एक्सपेंशन भी उल्टा लेटने की वजह से काफी ज्यादा अच्छा होता है, एयर का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बेटर होता है. तो कुछ ना कुछ समय हम लोग जरूर उल्टा लेटें, 10 मिनट 15 मिनट अपने रूटीन लाइफ में भी, और सांस की एक्सरसाइज को जरूर नियमित रूप से करें.
Thank you, sir. One thing I would like to share here कि जो पिछली बार अभी जो कोविड का जो second wave आई थी, I have seen a number of patients who have been taking some sort of Ayurvedic medications, which got a lot of publicity, and it was said that they treat any COVID, and people have blind faith on these medicines. तो मैंने ऐसे केसेस देखे हैं कि जहाँ पे लोगों को पता था कि उनको कोविड है, टेस्ट भी पॉजिटिव आया, सांस भी नहीं आ रही, बट वो ये सोच के बहुत खुश थे कि मैं तो आयुर्वेदिक दवाई ले रहा हूँ, मुझे तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला और मैं ठीक हो जाऊंगा. एंड आई हैव लॉस्ट सो मेनी ऑफ दीज पेशेंट्स बिकॉज they came very late for treatment, and by the time they were admitted, very little could be done for them. So I think one of the reasons why such fallacies become popular is that somehow there is some misrepresentation about the world bodies like WHO, like CDC, and the way they make their decisions and give their guidelines or recommendations. I'm bringing out this issue because there's a comment and there's a question in the chat box from one of our viewers about WHO and their assessment and work during this pandemic. So, because you are very esteemed researchers and yourself involved in R&D, just in few words to let our audience know कि WHO, CDC इन की जो कमिटीज होती हैं, इसमें गाइडलाइन बनाने के लिए हमारे इंडिया के भी बहुत टॉप स्पेशलिस्ट होते हैं, which study the disease, the condition, the associations, and then come out with any recommendations on guidelines. Few words अगर आप दोनों कुछ बता दें इसके बारे में. To instill faith in the recommendations that we doctors give, because our recommendations are based on WHO and CDC and likewise.
सर, हमें एक चीज ये समझनी पड़ेगी कि हमारे पास एनॉर्मिटी ऑफ डिजीज क्या थी. एक पेंडेमिक थी जिसने कि सबको ऑफ गार्ड किया, जिसने इतने डिवास्टेटिंग रोल में कि हमारे पास टाइम ही नहीं था. और WHO ने इस चीज को कल ही डिफेंड किया उनके, अगर हम परफेक्शन पे अगर बिलीव करेंगे दैट वी वोंट बी एबल टू एक्ट, अगर हम यही सोचते रहे कि हमारा सारा डिसीजन परफेक्ट हो, हमारा कोई डिसीजन गलत ना हो, तो फिर हम कोई काम कर ही नहीं सकते, फिर तो हम बैठे रहेंगे. ये तो टाइम बताएगा कि हमारा डिसीजन गलत है या सही था. जो भी एविडेंस हमें मिलता है, बिकॉज एनॉर्मेटिव डिजीज इतना ज्यादा है कि आप उसके सोचे कि मैं कंट्रोल ट्रायल कर लूँ, उसको फॉलो अप कर लूँ और एक बहुत रॉबस्ट डेटा क्रिएट कर लूँ और उसकी बेसिस रिकमेंडेशन, तो वो प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल नहीं था. और अगर ऐसा करते तो शायद वी वुड हैव मिस्ड द बस लाइक एनीथिंग. आज जितनी भी दवाई है, फॉर एग्जांपल वैक्सीनेशन देखिए, अभी भी वो इमरजेंसी यूज ऑथराइजेशन पे ही है, कोई रोबस्ट डेटा उनके लिए नहीं है, बट इन रियल वर्ल्ड दे आर प्रूविंग टू बी वेरी वेरी इफेक्टिव. एटलीस्ट दे आर प्रिवेंटिंग हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन, सीरियस रिस्क ऑफ डेथ इन दोज हु हैव बीन वैक्सीनेटेड, इन दो गॉट इफेक्टेड अगेन. हमें, मेरे ख्याल से इन लोग की जो एजेंसीज हैं ये बहुत ही ऑथेंटिक है, ये दिन रात काम करती हैं, बहुत सारे एक्सपर्ट्स हैं जो ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड से, ऐसा नहीं किसी एक देश का WHO है या कोई एक प्रांत का, ऐसा नहीं है, या कोई पॉलिटिकल सोसाइटी, ऐसा नहीं है. तो इसमें बहुत ज्यादा रिसर्च का जो भी डेटा आता है उसके लोग केयरफुली स्क्रीन कर रहे हैं, और बेस्ड ऑन डेटा दे आर गिविंग देयर रिकमेंडेशंस. उनकी गाइडेंस आती है, उस गाइडेंस को वो रिपीटेडली रिवाइज भी कर रहे हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि आज 24 सितंबर को आया तो उसके बाद 16 दिसंबर को भी गाइडेंस आया, तो अपनी रिकमेंडेशन से टोसिलिजुमाब को पहले उन्होंने अप्रूव किया, फिर डिसअप्रूव किया, फिर अगेन अप्रूव किया. तो जो भी डेटा आ रहा है उसके ऊपर वर्क कर रहे हैं. आई थिंक वी हैव नो चॉइस बट टू ट्रस्ट दैट, बिकॉज़ दैट इज द मोस्ट ऑथेंटिक डेटा वी हैव. वी डोंट नो कि ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम उसमें से कितना सही होगा, कितना गलत होगा, बट एज वी हैव अंडरस्टूड ओवर लास्ट 2 years or so, majority of that would found to be the will guide us in a better way. That is what I would be my comment, which is a very personal.
Thank you. Dr. Sani, sir, what is your opinion?
See, I agree completely with Dr. Manoj. If we wait for 100% proof of 100%, efficacy to wait, we might miss the bus. And some of these decisions, when you look at it from a community perspective, they seem unfair. When you didn't have proof, why did you do this? When you didn't have 100% evidence, why did you do this? But the fact is that the good of the larger community, if 95, 98% of the community is protected and 99% of the community is protected, then that is a cost. I agree, it's not a cost anybody would want to bear, that 1% or 0.1% of the population should actually get the side effect of the vaccine or not get protected. But that is a cost one has to take, and as a government, you have to take that decision. It's like going into a war. You will lose people, you will have to face the enemy, you will have to do all that, and you still have to go to war. You can't say you have to protect the sovereignty of the country. And here we are protecting the sovereignty of the people. And there may be a few casualties. Nobody wants them. Nobody loves them to happen. But that may be a cost one has to pay. And I think we should accept it at that. The WHO, the ICMR are working very hard to gather scientific data across the world, interpolate it on the local population, the local dynamics, and then come to a conclusion. So I think we should honor and respect them. There could be parties which are interested in making decisions go left or right to serve their personal interests, but that happens at every place in life. So the WHO, ICMR, CDC, these are all bodies we worship and we look up to for giving us judgment, and I think we should continue to do that.
Thank you. That was I think very informative and very useful for our listeners. One more thing I would request both of you to comment on is, what else can we do? What other measures can we do individually and as an organization, and the government should be enforcing, like elections are soon going to take place, and there might be gatherings and meetings, and we know what has been the effect of the Kumbh. So would you please comment on these aspects? Any one of them.
As of now, I think it is like living with COVID, and everybody is now has to accept the fact that COVID is not going to go away very soon. The mutants would come, we start coming over, would be behaving differently. The life cannot stop, right? So elections are also very important in the democratic process. For the governance, they have to be done. We can't postpone the elections for years for the fear of COVID. And whenever the elections are, there would be campaigns. But yes, we have to modify the campaigns in a way where we can avoid large gatherings. We must maintain and respect those golden, words: social distancing, masking, hand hygiene, plus vaccination. इनको तो हमें किसी भी तरह से भी कॉम्प्रोमाइज नहीं करना है. आजकल के जमाने में शायद सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग उतना प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल नहीं है, बिकॉज वी आर ओपनिंग अप. मास्किंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. जो चीज मुझे सबसे ज्यादा दुख देती है वो ये है कि लोग मास्क नहीं पहनते, और अगर मास्क पहनते भी तो न केवल नाम के लिए पहनते हैं. नाक खुली रहती है, मुंह खुल रहती है, गले ऊपर मास्क लगा होता है, प्रॉपर मास्क होता नहीं है, वो नाम के लिए होता है, कभी गमछा बांध दिया, कभी कपड़ा बांध दिया. एक ट्रिपल लेयर मास्क जो कि घर पे भी बन सकता है, उसको हम लोग अगर प्रॉपरली यूज करें और अपने काम पे जाएं और एज फार एज पॉसिबल हैंड हाइजीन सोशल डिस्टेंस को मेंटेन करें और वैक्सीनेशन को डिलीजेंटली फॉलो करें, तो जरूर हम इस बीमारी को के ऊपर ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम विजय पा पाएंगे. Government is doing its bit, but ultimately it is our responsibility to protect ourselves. We cannot blame government, or the agencies, or the organization कि उन्होंने ये किया, oxygen नहीं दिया, ये नहीं किया. But at the end of the day, you have to realize why you got infected. First, ask yourself, मुझे infection क्यों हुआ? मेरी क्या गलती थी? Could have avoided it. Could have avoided going to a marriage. Could have avoided going to a party. Could have done that, but I did not do it. So did I use the mask properly at every point of time? I didn't do it. You don't blame. I don't blame myself. I blame others. That I think is not the way forward. We really have to protect ourselves, take precautions, take care of ourselves. That's very important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That was a wonderful message. Dr. Tarun Sahni, sir, आप क्या ऐड करना चाहेंगे? आपका क्या मैसेज होगा?
See, life has to continue. You can't stop elections, you can't stop, but there are some events which you can stop, or you can take precautions. If you have to throw a party, or you have a wedding in the family, or there is a death in the family, and there is going to be an aggregation of people, try and keep them as small as possible. Make sure that you have masked everybody. For a lot of weddings, and I'm seeing that maturity happening, people are saying if you want to come for the wedding, please get an RT-PCR done 48 hours before you come to the venue. And some events which are taking place for longer periods of time, they're saying every third day you need to do an RT-PCR. And even at the smallest symptom of a cough, body ache, fever, you would be requested to please report, because it is not you, but you're putting the larger community at risk. So life has to go on. Elections will take place. Kumbh Melas can take place at a lower scale. Weddings can take place at a lower scale. Restaurants, people have had pandemic fatigue. There is a revenge tourism happening. You can't curtail the community indoors completely, but you can definitely bring in some degree of discipline, both by regulatory mechanism, which is by the government and the police, etc., and voluntarily by social groups within the community and by individuals on their own. And we may just have to live with this for another 1 year or 2 years. We don't know, but we can't get locked up, and we can't wait for the government to, take a whip and whip everybody and say, no, you will not step out and your cars will not step out. So I think society has to mature to a level of acceptance, and also to be able to handle the pandemic or handle the disease as and when it happens in a mature manner. And the institutions, the hospitals, the government is supporting the community in any case. We are ready, but please don't make us use our facilities by your ignorance or by your being too much of a hero. So help us to help you.
Thank you, sir. That was really great. That we are ready, but please don't let us use our facilities to help you. So be ready. And one, I would say, very heartening thing that I've heard was none of you have used the word lockdown. So probably we are not expecting another one. Thank you so much. I think we had a great discussion. We've got so much information, and right from you, from the top specialists in our country. Now I'd request Shri Anil Rajput ji sir to give a vote of thanks and to summarize. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sahni, for very, very enlightening discussion. And I'm sure all the participants would have taken note of all the advices and the tips that you have given. At the end of the day, it's people who have to be careful. Nobody can help you if you don't want to help yourself. This is a pandemic situation, and all of us have to keep a watch on all the activities that are going around us, and we have to protect ourselves against this virus. A vaccine is only a protective. It cannot avoid you getting this virus. And as this virus is very, very new, which both the doctors have highlighted, there are many unknowns that are there, and therefore the scientific community is still grappling to have a real effective medicine for this or the way how we can fight this whole virus. So people have to protect their own life by taking right decision. All the people in the community have, scientific community have given them a Ramban by saying that, use sanitizer, use mask. These will all help. Do hand wash regularly. And Dr. Sani has also been saying that, what is most important during these times for you to help yourself is to get good sleep, have good food habits, balanced diet, exercise. Lung health is very, very important. So, so thank you very much, Doc, for coming and sharing your views with all our listeners. And I'm sure it'll help them in a big way. And similarly, Dr. Manoj Goyal also has been saying that, vaccine, people are getting infected in London. They are vaccinated. Even though you are vaccinated, you are still likely to get this virus. And it is early stage of this variant. And many things are not known to us. And genetic constitution of different countries, people is very different. And how it is going to behave on Indian people, on our genes, will only be known as we move forward. So therefore, it is very incumbent on us to ensure that we keep ourselves protected. We take all the right safety measures, and many scientific developments are taking place. And very nicely mentioned by him that the scientific community is not sleeping. They are constantly working and trying to find what is the best way forward for all of us to remain safe and healthy. And people need to change their behavior. They have to behave more responsibly when they are out. In many large gatherings, people are really behaving in a very irresponsible manner. So all the listeners, it is our request that you take all these advice given by our doctors seriously, and you should do pranayam. Saans hai to aas hai. As doctor mentioned, that this is an old age saying, and it's a good reminder. People should ulta leto, because that helps the expansion of lungs and keep them healthy and safe. With these words, I'd like to thank both of them and really appreciate their coming and sharing their valuable thoughts with us and spending time with us. And I'm sure we will have in future also their time and wisdom for our viewers going forward. And last but not least, thank you very much, Dr. Kesri, who have been my partner for many webinars over the last year and a half, or almost 2 years, I would say. You have taken huge amount of pain in spreading the awareness amongst the people and showing them the way forward for them to remain healthy during these very difficult times. And I'll also like to thank SHM team for organizing this event for the benefit of all our members. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Namaskar.